Welcome to the Fantasy Football Endgame with your hosts, Pierre Camus and Chris Moncano.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Endgame. I'm here to talk quarterbacks for Week 5. Normally, quarterback, not the most exciting position or important position on the waiver wire, but it's going to be a little more important than it has been so far this season. We got actual bye weeks coming up, like official bye weeks, not game postponed or canceled bye weeks. But the Lions and the Packers are officially off, and so you're going to need a replacement for Aaron Rodgers. You've been riding him. Or I know a lot of people have got Matt Stafford, kind of late round quarterback. I know I've been rolling with him in a couple of leagues where I waited on quarterback. You need to find somebody else. And of course, if you've had Cam Newton as your starter, probably at the very least for this week are going to need somebody else. So who are your best options? Let's take a look. Before we do that, though, if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button and click on the little bell notification. We're here to give you waiver wire advice, start-sit advice, breaking news, and of course, Game Day Live every Sunday morning for the entire NFL season. All right. I'm Pierre. My partner Chris handles some of the other stuff. It's our streamers. We're together for start and sit. But right now, I'm going to tell you about the waiver wire options for quarterback. All right. So who should your top option be, assuming he's actually available in your league? Right now, not too heavily owned. And that would be Justin Herbert. He's got to be your top option. And I'm kind of surprised that more people haven't picked up on him. I guess just because quarterback's one of those positions where you only need really one guy to roll with. And I mean, there's enough depth that you really don't need him. But there are guys, like I said, you're going to need to fill in for injuries, bye weeks, or Carson Wentz. That was your quarterback. So it's got to be Herbert. He's got to be your top pick. Okay, so number one, 10 yards shy of finishing with 300 passing yards for the third consecutive game. And that would be all three of his NFL starts so far. I mean, what else can you ask from him? Not necessarily piling up touchdowns, but he's had a steady supply. And the amazing thing about it is not just that he's a rookie, but he's doing this, mind you, with anybody and everybody that they throw on the field. All right, he didn't have Mike Williams this past week. You know, he's been banged up all year, basically. Didn't have Austin Eckler for half a game. Might not be with Austin Eckler for who knows how long at this point. He doesn't care. He's throwing bombs to Jalen Guyton, Tyron Johnson. Don't pretend you know who that was. I had no idea, and I follow NFL pretty closely. Don't forget XFL expat Donald Parham Jr. at tight end. He does not care who is out there. He's finding them, and he's being productive. All right, so Herbert is a guy I think, honestly, at this point, if you have a disappointing quarterback or an injured quarterback or whatnot, you could probably roll with him in a single quarterback league that's deep enough, maybe rest of the season, who knows? And without Eckler, they could be leaning on that passing game even more. So add Herbert if you're in need at quarterback, which you obviously are if you're watching this. So actually, depending on who you have too, if it's deep enough where you already have a solid, maybe not the most exciting quarterback, and you're considering switching this week based on bad matchup or whatnot, Herbert gets the Saints. All right. And the Saints right now, bottom 5 against quarterback. So definitely a good streaming option, even if you're not desperate at quarterback. All right. Number 2, if Herbert's not available, or you're just not buying what I'm saying, you got to go with Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, obviously coming off his best game as a Panther last week, went forward 276 yards and 2 touchdowns, ran in a touchdown. That's not going to happen every week, right? He's not the second coming of Kyler Murray, but he outplayed Kyler Murray in this game. And you know what? He's been really solid every week. He hasn't made mistakes, which we know that's kind of his thing, but he's been solid enough to get you by. All right. The ceiling is not sky high, obviously, here, but he's been really solid. And Robbie Anderson's working out. They're going to throw the ball probably more than they want to because McCaffrey's out. But you know what? The running game hasn't really suffered that much, and he's got really good pass-catching running backs and Mike Davis and I guess now Reggie Bonifant. But the thing is, this is a really nice, steady play here, and you can't ignore the fact playing the Falcons in Week 5. All right? So you can probably stream any quarterback against the Falcons, but Teddy Bridgewater, the way he's playing, I think that's a pretty good bet too. So he's probably your number 2 option for Week 5. And nice, steady second quarterback pretty much the rest of the year. Less exciting now. Hopefully one of the 2 guys is available, but less exciting option here is Phillip Rivers. He just didn't do it this past game. 190 yards and 1 touchdown. His touchdown to interception ratio not too great, but you know what? He still is fantasy relevant in some leagues because he's going to go against the Cleveland Browns, and Cleveland Browns do not have a good pass defense. As you saw, Dak Prescott threw for, I think it was 500 yards. Is that right? Yeah. So the Browns, you can admire their offense, and they're playing really well, not in pass defense. Okay. So don't get too excited and think, oh, the Browns are good. No, the Browns right now are giving up the third most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. So Phillip Rivers not necessarily guaranteed a big game, but if the Browns offense actually gets something going against the Colts defense, which I know the Colts defense has been lights out, but it could have to actually pass the ball a little bit more, not just be Taylor. I think that you might have enough value to make Rivers at least streamable. But again, that's only if you have to. All right. A little farther down here, Ryan Fitzpatrick. What a letdown this week. We thought he would have a monster game against Seattle. Not so much. The Dolphins kept it close, but not necessarily because he was doing amazing things, right? He threw 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. He ran one in, Fitzpatrick and leading the team in rushing. But you can't guarantee that every week. I just don't think he's necessarily trustworthy on a weekly basis. I know we think the volume is going to be there, but there's just nobody besides Devontae Parker. Preston Williams has been struggling, maybe not 100% healthy, and there's just no depth behind him, really. So this is still not an offense that you can trust, even in good matchups, as we've seen. So if you're in a 2-quarterback or super flex league, you can roll with Fitzpatrick, but hopefully you have a better option at this point. And then the last name I want to mention is Kirk Cousins. Cousins has been coming on. Justin Jefferson emerging, definitely a big part of that. We know Dalvin Cook is still kind of what makes this offense run, but they realized that to win, they probably actually need to have a good passing game too. It kind of happened. I know Houston obviously was a good matchup for them, but Kirk Cousins, I think, has shown enough that you can trust him. Maybe I should take that back. You can use him if you need to as a fallback option, because really the floor has been kind of steady for him. He had that really horrible game in week 2, and obviously, the Vikings have got off to a really horrible start. But Kirk Cousins has been at least somewhat reliable. In 3 out of the 4 games, he's at least gone for 250 yards. That's something, right? At least that's kind of a floor. All right, hopefully a better option. If you have other questions, guys, about waivers or anything else quarterback related, you can follow me at roto_chef. You can follow our account here at Endgame Fantasy and let us know what you got in mind. Look out for also running back, wide receiver, tight end editions of waiver wire ads for week 5. All right. Thanks for watching.